The sound echoed across the yard, a hand striking flesh. Her head snapped to the side from the impact, but she didn't falter. The colonel's face twisted with rage as he towered over her. The entire unit watched in stunned silence. None of them moved to help. None of them dared. The female SEAL simply steadied herself, locked eyes with her superior officer, and spoke 4 words that changed everything. "Permission to respond, sir." What happened next took exactly 3 seconds. Nobody saw it coming, nobody except her. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoy stories of quiet strength and unexpected justice, subscribe and join our community of storytellers. The sun had yet to break over Naval Base Coronado when Lieutenant Commander Alessandra Vega began her morning routine. Most of the base remained asleep, the silence broken only by the rhythmic sound of her breathing as she executed perfect pull-ups from a bar outside the training facility. Her movements were fluid, controlled, revealing years of disciplined training that went beyond standard military requirements. Sweat glistened on her forearms, highlighting a network of unusual scars that told stories her personnel file never would. 47, 48, 49, 50. She dropped to the ground without sound, immediately transitioning to a series of complex stretches that seemed more appropriate for special operations than standard Navy protocol. The rising California sun cast her shadow long across the concrete, a solitary figure moving with precision while the rest of the base slowly stirred to life. From the administration building, Lieutenant Brielle Mackey observed the lone figure with undisguised curiosity. New to her logistics position at Coronado, Brielle had heard whispers about the female SEAL since her first day. Not that anyone called Vega that directly. Female integration into the SEAL teams remained a contentious subject, especially among the old guard. Instead, they used careful language. Officer with special qualifications. Operator with specialized training, never directly acknowledging what she actually was. Brielle watched as Vega completed her routine, noting how the woman checked her surroundings with subtle, practiced movements that most wouldn't notice. Even in the supposed safety of an American military base, Vega maintained operational awareness. Interesting. Brielle decided to introduce herself, walking across the training yard with deliberate steps loud enough to telegraph her approach. "Good morning, Lieutenant Commander," Brielle called, keeping her tone professional. Vega turned, her expression neutral but alert. "Lieutenant," she acknowledged, taking in Brielle's logistics insignia with a quick glance. "You must be new to Coronado." 3 weeks, Brielle confirmed. "Lieutenant Brielle Mackey, logistics support." "Alessandra Vega." She offered nothing more, no unit designation or specialty. Just her name as she reached, for a towel to wipe her face. Up close, Brielle noticed more details. A strange communications device clipped to Vega's workout gear, different from standard issue. The way she positioned herself with clear sightlines to all access points. The careful way she kept her right hand free. "I heard you were heading out with Commander Pike's team on the extraction operation," Brielle ventured, testing the waters. Vega's expression remained unchanged, but something flickered in her eyes. "I go where I am assigned, Lieutenant." Before Brielle could respond, a deep voice called from across the yard. "Vega, briefing in 15. Commander Thaddeus Ward approached, his weathered face serious beneath salt and pepper hair. Despite technically outranking Vega, his tone carried an unusual deference. His eyes flicked to Brielle, then back to Vega with an unspoken question. "Lieutenant Mackey, logistics," Vega explained simply. Ward nodded curtly. "Welcome aboard, Lieutenant. If you will excuse us, we have an operational matter to discuss." Brielle nodded and stepped away, but not before noticing how Ward leaned in to speak quietly to Vega, their conversation clearly not meant for others. As she walked back toward the administration building, she caught fragments. "Harrington wants full visibility. Not protocol for operations of this classification. Pike is concerned about the timeline." Curious indeed, Brielle filed the interaction away, already sensing there was more to Lieutenant Commander Alessandra Vega than her rank suggested. 2 hours later, the classified command center beneath Building 7 hummed with activity. Screens displayed satellite imagery of a compound somewhere in a mountainous region, though all geographic identifiers had been redacted from the displays. Colonel Marcus Harrington stood at the front of the room, his ramrod-straight posture and immaculate uniform projecting authority as he addressed the assembled team leaders. "Gentlemen," Harrington began, his eyes briefly lingering on Vega, the only woman in the room, before continuing. "And officer, we have a critical extraction operation. 3 American aid workers taken hostage 72 hours ago in a region I am not at liberty to name. Intelligence indicates a 48-hour window before they are moved to a location where recovery becomes significantly less viable." He gestured to the satellite imagery. "Alpha Team, under Lieutenant Commander Pike, will conduct the primary extraction. Bravo Team provides perimeter security. Delta will maintain quick reaction capability should additional support be required." Harrington's eyes narrowed as he turned toward Vega. "Lieutenant Commander Vega will remain on base as operational support, monitoring communications." His tone made clear his view of her assignment. A desk job, safely away from the action. From across the room, Lieutenant Commander Zachariah Pike, Alpha Team's leader, exchanged a brief glance with Vega. Something unspoken passed between them before Pike addressed the colonel. "Sir, with respect, Lieutenant Commander Vega's expertise in the region would be valuable in the field." Harrington's jaw tightened. "Your concern is noted, Commander Pike. However, I have made my decision based on operational requirements and team cohesion considerations. This extraction requires a seamless unit with established field experience together." The implication hung in the air. Vega was not considered part of that seamless unit. She was an outsider, a woman in a brotherhood, regardless of whatever qualifications she might possess. "Questions?" Harrington asked, daring anyone to challenge his authority further. The room remained silent. As the briefing concluded, Commander Ward approached Vega, who had remained expressionless throughout Harrington's thinly veiled dismissal of her capabilities. Ward positioned himself so his back was to the room's cameras, an imperceptible nod passing between them. To anyone watching, it would appear as a senior officer offering routine guidance. Only someone looking very closely would notice Vega's subtle hand signal in response. 8 hours later, Harrington stood in the command center, watching the operation unfold through live feeds from helmet cameras and drone footage. Alpha Team had successfully infiltrated the target area and was approaching the compound where intelligence indicated the hostages were held. "Alpha Team in position," Pike's voice came through the communications system. "Beginning approach to primary structure." Harrington leaned forward, watching intently as the team moved with practiced precision toward the building. Everything appeared to be proceeding according to plan until multiple alarm signals suddenly blared through the command center. "Contact! Contact!" Pike's voice crackled through the speakers. "Heavy resistance northeast corner. We are compromised." The screens showed chaos as Alpha Team took cover amid a hail of gunfire that had erupted from positions that intelligence had indicated were unoccupied. "How did they know we were coming?" Harrington demanded, slamming his fist on the console. Delta Team, move to support position. In a separate, unmarked room 3 floors above, Lieutenant Commander Vega sat before a specialized communications array that would not appear on any base inventory. Her fingers moved rapidly over the controls as she monitored encrypted channels that the main command center did not have access to. Her expression remained focused as she processed information coming through a separate intelligence network. "Countermeasures in place," she spoke quietly into a secure line. "Redirecting satellite coverage to southeastern approach. Command center has compromised feeds." She made rapid adjustments to the system, effectively creating a blind spot in the official operation view while providing Pike with accurate intelligence through a secondary channel. It was a dangerous move, one that violated direct protocol, but the alternative was worse. "Pike, southeastern wall has minimal coverage. 3 guards, standard pattern. Hostages confirmed in central room." Her voice was calm, despite the chaos unfolding in the command center below. On her screen, she watched as Pike immediately redirected his team, abandoning the compromised approach for the route she had identified. The feed showed them successfully breaching the building through the southeastern entrance, encountering exactly the resistance she had described. Within minutes, they had secured the hostages. "Package secured," Pike's voice confirmed through the official channel. "Exfiltrating via secondary route." In the command center, Harrington's expression morphed from concern to confusion as he watched Alpha Team successfully extract the hostages despite the initial ambush. His eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display, noticing discrepancies between the intelligence he had been provided and what was actually happening on the ground. "Where did that southeastern approach come from?" he demanded. "It wasn't in the briefing package." No one in the command center answered as they watched Alpha Team disappear into the night with the hostages, the mission successful despite the apparent intelligence failure. But the success came with complications. The team had been forced to neutralize more opposition than anticipated, and preliminary reports indicated some of the deceased might include local security forces rather than just the hostage takers. The diplomatic fallout would be significant. By the time Alpha Team returned to base 12 hours later, tensions were already high. The hostages were safe, but the political situation had deteriorated. Someone had leaked information, compromising the original approach, and the resulting firefight had created an international incident that the State Department was scrambling to contain. Colonel Harrington stood in his office, rage barely contained as he reviewed the after-action reports. The successful extraction of the hostages should have been cause for celebration, but the diplomatic consequences overshadowed the victory. Someone had changed the operational parameters without authorization, and he intended to find out who. His suspicions centered on Vega. The southeastern approach that had saved the mission was not in any of the official briefing materials. Yet, somehow, Pike had known exactly where to go when the primary plan failed. Harrington had never wanted Vega on his base to begin with. A woman playing at being a SEAL, given special treatment because of some political agenda in Washington. Now he had evidence that she had interfered with his operation. "Sergeant Major," he called to his aide, "assemble all SEAL teams and support personnel at 0800 tomorrow on the main parade ground. Full inspection uniform." The next morning dawned clear and cool as hundreds of Navy personnel stood in perfect formation on the parade ground. Alpha Team, still showing signs of fatigue from their mission, maintained rigid posture as Colonel Harrington paced before them. Lieutenant Commander Vega stood with the command staff, her uniform immaculate, her expression neutral as Harrington approached. "Lieutenant Commander Vega," his voice carried across the silent formation. "Step forward." She complied, moving with precise military bearing to stand before him. "Yesterday, an operation under my command was compromised," Harrington began, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Somehow, information was leaked. Somehow, operational parameters were changed without proper authorization. And somehow, Lieutenant Commander Pike received intelligence that was not provided through official channels." He circled Vega like a predator. "I have spent all night reviewing communications logs, Lieutenant Commander. Care to explain why there was a burst transmission from your station to Alpha Team's secure channel at exactly the moment their primary approach was compromised?" Vega remained at attention, her eyes fixed straight ahead. "I monitored the situation and provided available intelligence when it became clear the team was in danger, sir." "Without authorization," Harrington snapped, "you violated direct protocol. You circumvented the chain of command. Your actions, while perhaps well-intentioned, created an international incident that the State Department will be cleaning up for months." From the formation, Pike shifted slightly, clearly uncomfortable with Vega taking the blame, but a subtle hand signal from Commander Ward kept him in place. "Moreover," Harrington continued, his voice growing harder, "this incident exemplifies the problems with forcing diversity where it does not belong. The SEAL teams operate on trust, built through shared experience and proven capability, not special accommodations and political appointments." The insult hung in the air. Around the formation, faces remained impassive, but tension radiated through the ranks. Many had served with Vega, had seen her capabilities firsthand, regardless of the political implications of her position. Colonel, Captain Elowin Winters, the Naval Intelligence Liaison, stepped forward from the staff. "If I may, the intelligence Lieutenant Commander Vega provided was accurate and likely saved the mission." "Your input is not required, Captain," Harrington cut her off. "This is a matter of operational discipline within my command." Winters retreated, but not before exchanging a significant glance with Commander Ward. Something was happening beneath the surface of this public reprimand, currents of information flowing that Harrington could not see. "Lieutenant Commander Vega," Harrington continued, "you are hereby relieved of operational duties pending a full investigation into your conduct. You will report to Administrative Services for reassignment. I intend to recommend a formal review of your qualifications for service within Special Operations Units." The dismissal was clear, the public humiliation complete. Vega accepted it without visible reaction, responding with a crisp, "Yes, sir." As the formation disbanded, Master Chief Petty Officer Torrin Blackwood, a career SEAL with over 20 years of service, observed Vega walking away from the parade ground. Something about the situation did not sit right with him. He had served with every SEAL team on the base, knew the capabilities and history of every operator under Harrington's command. Except Vega. Despite her presence at Coronado for over a year, her operational history remained a mystery, wrapped in classified designations that even his clearance could not penetrate. His curiosity finally overcoming his discretion, Blackwood followed her, catching up as she approached the administrative building. "Lieutenant Commander," he called, his deep voice stopping her. "A moment of your time." Vega turned, her face still unreadable after Harrington's public dressing down. "Master Chief." Blackwood glanced around to ensure they were alone before speaking. "That redirect saved Pike's team. That was not standard protocol. That was not even in our playbook." She remained silent, waiting for him to continue. "I have served with every SEAL team on this base," Blackwood said, studying her face for any reaction. "But I have never seen your operational history, Vega. Never trained with you until you appeared here 14 months ago with Commander Ward's endorsement." Reaching into his pocket, he produced a small plastic bag containing traces of sand. "This was from your gear after the Mauritania training exercise, but it is not Mauritanian sand. I know because I have served there. This is from the Hindu Kush." He paused, letting the implication sink in. "Your file says Mediterranean deployment during that period. That unit was never there, officially." Vega's expression remained carefully controlled, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or caution. "Who exactly are you working for, Lieutenant Commander?" Blackwood asked directly. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, with the barest hint of a smile that never reached her eyes, she answered, "The same people you do, Master Chief. I just have different orders." She turned to leave, but Blackwood was not finished. "Harrington is gunning for you. He has been since you arrived, but this goes beyond his usual resistance to female operators. He seems personally threatened by your presence." Vega paused. "Your concern is noted, Master Chief." As she walked away, Blackwood noticed a small device clipped to her belt, briefly illuminate with a symbol he had never seen before. It flashed for less than a second before disappearing, but it was enough to confirm his suspicions. Lieutenant Commander Alessandra Vega was not simply a female SEAL breaking the glass ceiling. She was something else entirely. Something that operated in shadows far deeper than even he, with all his experience, had been trained to navigate. The question now was, what game was being played on his base? And why was Harrington so determined to remove Vega from the board? If you have ever witnessed someone being underestimated only to reveal unexpected strength later, share your story in the comments. Sometimes the most powerful people are those who do not need to prove themselves to anyone. Subscribe if you want to see what happens when Colonel Harrington discovers who he really struck. Master Chief Blackwood sat alone in his small office, the glow of his computer screen illuminating his weathered face as he scrolled through Lieutenant Commander Vega's service record, or what was supposed to be her service record, where most personnel files contain detailed deployment histories, performance evaluations, and training certifications. Vega's digital file was a masterpiece of redactions and omissions. Entire sections appeared as black rectangles, classified beyond his considerable security clearance. Other parts contained information that did not align with what he knew to be true. According to her file, Vega had never served in Afghanistan or Pakistan, yet he had found Hindu Kush sand residue in her gear. The file listed her as a communications specialist with advanced training, yet he had seen her handle weapons with the unconscious proficiency that came only from years of operational experience. Most tellingly, her file contained a curious gap between 2019 and 2022. 3 years unaccounted for, dismissed with a single line, specialized training and deployment, classified TSSCI under Directive 117-9. Blackwood leaned back in his chair, considering the implications. TSSCI clearance was top-secret sensitive compartmented information, used for the military's most classified operations. Directive 117-9 was not something he recognized, which itself was unusual given his position. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. He quickly closed the file and cleared his screen. Enter? Captain Elawan Winters stepped into the office, closing the door behind her. The Naval Intelligence Liaison was not someone who typically visited the SEAL barracks. Master Chief, she greeted him formally. Do you have a moment? Of course, Captain. He gestured to the chair across from his desk, studying her carefully. Winters was sharp, known for her analytical mind and discretion. She had been present at the morning's formation when Harrington had dressed down Vega. Winters took the seat, but did not immediately speak, instead glancing around the office as if checking for something, or someone. How can I help Naval Intelligence today, Captain? Blackwood prompted. I understand you've been asking questions about Lieutenant Commander Vega, she said finally, her tone carefully neutral. Blackwood kept his expression equally neutral. I have concerns about the Colonel's treatment of an officer under my technical supervision. Just concerns about fair treatment? Winters asked, one eyebrow raising slightly. I also have questions about discrepancies in her service record. Winters nodded slowly. Such as? Such as the fact that her file says Mediterranean deployment, but the sand in her gear was from the Hindu Kush. That unit was never there, officially. He emphasized the last word, watching Winters closely for her reaction. For a moment, something flashed across her face. Recognition? Concern? It was gone too quickly to interpret. Master Chief, how long have you served? 23 years, ma'am. And in that time, have you ever been involved in operations that were not officially acknowledged? Blackwood said nothing, which was answer enough. Winters leaned forward. Sometimes, the record reflects what needs to be in the record, not what actually happened. With respect, Captain, that is not my concern. My concern is that one of my operators is being targeted by Colonel Harrington, potentially because he does not have full information about her qualifications or assignment. Or perhaps because he has stumbled onto partial information without context, Winters countered. Either way, Master Chief, my advice to you is to focus on your assigned duties and leave Lieutenant Commander Vega's history to those with the appropriate clearance. She stood to leave, but paused at the door. And Master Chief, I would be careful about accessing personnel files outside your direct chain of command. Electronic footprints can be traced. After she left, Blackwood sat in silence, digesting the exchange. Winters had neither confirmed nor denied his suspicions about Vega. But her warning had been clear enough. He was treading in dangerous waters, ones that extended beyond the normal chain of command. On the other side of the base, Lieutenant Commander Vega sat in a Spartan temporary office, reassigned as Harrington had ordered to administrative duties. Her new workspace contained only a desk, chair, computer terminal, and secure phone. The walls were bare except for a standard Navy emblem. Nothing personal marked the space as hers, as if she expected her time there to be brief. The secure phone rang once. Vega checked that the door was closed before answering. Whiskey Sierra. Status report, a female voice responded. No introduction necessary. Cover maintained but compromised, Vega reported. Harrington is escalating faster than anticipated. Assessment? He suspects something but lacks confirmation. The mission deviation forced my hand. A brief pause. The leak? Confirmed from within his office, still identifying the specific source. Maintain position, continue observation, the operation proceeds. Understood. Additional resources? Negative. Visibility concerns. Utilize available assets only. The line went dead. Vega replaced the receiver, her expression unchanging despite the complexity of her situation. She had been placed at Naval Base Coronado for a specific purpose, operating under deep cover. Only Commander Ward knew her true assignment. Now, Harrington's vendetta against her threatened to expose an operation years in the making. Her computer pinged with an encrypted message. Opening it revealed a simple text. SecDef approval received for continued Black Section operations under JSOC directive. Maintain protocol Obsidian. Ward. She deleted the message and cleared the cache, just as a knock came at her door. She quickly switched her screen to a mundane administrative form before calling, Enter. The door opened to reveal Colonel Harrington himself, his uniform immaculate as always, his face set in stern lines. Lieutenant Commander, he acknowledged coldly. Colonel, she returned, standing as protocol required. I trust you are finding your new assignment appropriately challenging. His tone made clear his disdain for her relegation to paperwork. "I serve where assigned, sir." Harrington studied her for a moment, looking for any sign of resentment or anger at her public humiliation. Finding none seemed to irritate him further. "I've been reviewing your service record, Lieutenant Commander. There are aspects I find curious. Sir, 3 years under a classification I cannot access, despite my position. Specialized training not consistent with standard SEAL qualifications. And a transfer to my command that came with unusual restrictions." Vega remained at parade rest, her face a professional mask. "I am not at liberty to discuss classified aspects of my service record, sir." "No," Harrington said, his jaw tightening. "I expect you are not. However, as commander of this base, I have initiated a comprehensive security review. All personnel with access to the mission's parameters from yesterday's operation are being interviewed to determine the source of the leak." "Of course, sir. I am available whenever needed for that review." "I'm sure you are." Harrington moved closer, lowering his voice. "Let me be clear, Lieutenant Commander. I do not know what strings were pulled to place you in this command, but your presence disrupts the operational integrity of my units. Female integration into special operations should proceed through proper channels, not through whatever backdoor you utilized." The accusation hung in the air between them. Vega had not used any backdoor to become a SEAL, had earned her trident through the same brutal training as every other operator. But the cover story of being part of the Female Integration Initiative provided useful camouflage for her actual role. "Is there anything else, sir?" she asked, her voice steady. "Yes. You are restricted to base until the security review is complete. No outside communications, no leave. Consider yourself under administrative observation." "Understood, sir." Harrington turned to leave, but paused at the door. "One more thing. Whatever protection you think you have from Ward or others will not shield you if I discover you compromised operational security. I will see you, discharged, regardless of who your patrons in Washington might be." After he left, Vega remained standing for a long moment, processing the exchange. Harrington was accelerating his investigation. She needed to move up her timeline as well. Taking a secure tablet from her desk drawer, she accessed a hidden directory and began reviewing personnel files for Harrington's immediate staff. The leak had come from within his office. Someone with access to the mission parameters had compromised the operation, nearly getting Pike's team killed. The question was whether Harrington himself was involved or merely being used. Her attention focused on his administrative assistant, Pax Mercer, junior officer, exemplary record, handpicked by Harrington when he assumed command 6 months ago. Nothing in his file suggested connections that would make him a security risk, but something about his recent financial records flagged her attention. A series of deposits too small to trigger automatic reviews, but following a pattern she recognized from previous counterintelligence operations. She made a note to investigate further when a message flashed across her secure tablet. Priority alert from an automated surveillance system she had placed weeks ago. Someone was accessing sealed files related to Black Section, the classified unit she actually belonged to. Not directly, but through adjacent systems, attempting to piece together information from various classified databases. The access point was Harrington's private terminal. Later that evening, as darkness fell over the base, Lieutenant Commander Pike found Vega at the far end of the beach that bordered the western edge of the facility. She sat on a piece of driftwood, watching the sunset paint the Pacific Ocean in shades of orange and gold. It was the only time he had ever seen her in a moment of apparent relaxation, though he knew her well enough to recognize she remained fully aware of her surroundings. "Secure?" he asked quietly as he approached. "For now," she confirmed, not turning to look at him. "Harrington has increased electronic surveillance, but not physical observation." Pike took a seat beside her on the driftwood, both of them facing the ocean rather than looking at each other. To any observer, they would appear to be two officers taking a moment of respite after a difficult day. "Alpha Team is concerned about your situation," Pike said after a moment. "Alpha Team should focus on recovery and preparation for future deployments." "They know something is wrong, Lex. The way Harrington is targeting you goes beyond his usual resistance to female operators." She glanced at him briefly. "You know better than to use that name here." Pike nodded, acknowledging the slip. "The team knows you saved them. The southeastern approach was not in any briefing materials. Without your intervention, we would have walked into a massacre." The mission was compromised from within, she said quietly. Someone leaked the primary insertion point. Harrington? Unknown at this time, but he is actively searching for information on Black Section operations. Pike's expression darkened. That crosses a line. Those operations are classified well above his clearance for a reason. Which is why I need you to maintain your cover, Vega emphasized. Your team cannot be compromised. The ongoing mission takes priority over my situation. Director Rhine might disagree. You are the primary asset on this operation. Director Rhine understands operational necessity. One exposed agent is acceptable if the network remains intact. Pike shook his head slightly, a hint of frustration breaking through his professional demeanor. Sometimes I forget who I'm talking to. 3 years in the field together, and you still think like a spy, not a SEAL. I think like what I am, she corrected him. An intelligence officer assigned to a special operations unit because the mission required both skill sets. The sunset's glow highlighted the tension in Pike's face as he stood. I'll maintain cover as ordered, but if Harrington escalates further, the team will not stand by. They will if you order them to, she said firmly. That's why you're the team leader, Zach, because when necessary, you put the mission above personal loyalty. He didn't respond to that, instead asking, "What about Blackwood?" He's asking questions. Let him, he may be useful. Pike nodded once, then walked away, leaving Vega alone with the dying light. As darkness settled over the beach, she remained motionless, the peaceful scene at odds with the calculations running through her mind. Harrington was becoming more dangerous, not less. His search for information on Black Section indicated either dangerous curiosity or something more sinister. Either way, her window of opportunity was closing. The next morning brought heavy fog rolling in from the Pacific, shrouding the base in a gray haze that seemed to muffle sounds and blur outlines. Vega used the cover to move between buildings, avoiding the security cameras Harrington had directed toward her usual paths. She needed access to his office, but with her restricted status, direct approach was impossible. She found Captain Winters near the officers' mess, timing her approach to appear coincidental. "Captain," she greeted Winters formally. "A moment of your time?" Winters glanced around before nodding. "Walk with me, Lieutenant Commander." They moved away from the main buildings, following a path that wound through a small stand of trees where surveillance was minimal. "Blackwood has been asking questions about you," Winters said, once they were relatively secluded. "I am aware. He found traces of Hindu Kush sand in your gear. He's connecting dots." Vega considered this information. "Assessment? He's loyal to the institution, not individuals. If he believes someone is compromising operational security, he will act, regardless of rank or position. And if he determines Harrington is the threat?" Winters gave her a measured look. "Then he becomes an asset. But that's not why you approach me." "No," Vega acknowledged. "I need access to Harrington's secure communications. Naval intelligence has monitoring capabilities I cannot access without revealing my actual clearance level. That's beyond my direct authority. I would need justification." His administrative assistant, Mercer. "Financial irregularities consistent with payment for intelligence. And Harrington has been accessing databases adjacent to Black Section operations, attempting to piece together classified information." Winters stopped walking, her expression grave. "You're suggesting Colonel Harrington is actively compromised? That goes beyond professional rivalry or resistance to female integration. I am suggesting the possibility requires investigation. My position limits my ability to pursue it directly." After a moment's consideration, Winters nodded. "I'll see what I can access, but be careful, Vega. If Harrington is compromised and realizes we suspect, he becomes significantly more dangerous." "I am always careful, Captain." As they parted ways, neither woman noticed the figure watching from the fog-shrouded tree line. Master Chief Blackwood had observed their meeting, too far away to hear the conversation, but close enough to see the serious exchange. His suspicions deepened. Something far more complex than gender integration politics was playing out on his base. That afternoon, an urgent message summoned Vega to a secure communications facility on the eastern edge of the base. The fog had lifted, replaced by clear skies that offered no concealment as she made her way across the open ground. She felt exposed, vulnerable in a way that raised her combat instincts. Something was wrong about the summons. The facility appeared empty when she arrived, the guard station unmanned. protocol violation. She approached cautiously, hand moving toward the concealed weapon she carried, despite Harrington's restrictions. The door opened before she reached it, revealing Commander Ward. "Inside, quickly," he ordered, voice low. Once inside the secure room, Ward activated electronic countermeasures to prevent surveillance before speaking. "We have a situation. An intelligence asset has been compromised in the same region as the extraction operation. Their handler has gone dark." Vega processed this information quickly. "Connection to our operation? Unknown, but the timing suggests it's not coincidental. The asset had information on foreign intelligence operations targeting U.S. military command structures. Including Coronado?" Ward nodded grimly. "Including specific interest in command transitions and personnel changes over the past year. Harrington's appointment," Vega concluded. "Potentially, the asset needs extraction before they can be interrogated by hostile forces. Director Rhine has authorized a black section operation, but given the sensitivity and your current situation, options are limited. Parameters? Covert, deniable, no official sanction. If captured, standard disavowal protocols apply." Vega weighed the implications. The asset needed extraction, but Harrington had her under administrative restriction. Leaving the base would confirm his suspicions and potentially compromise her cover permanently. "Timeline?" she asked. "Asset's last known location goes cold in 18 hours. I'll need a communications blackout explanation and transportation with minimal electronic signature." Ward handed her a secure tablet. "Operational details. Memorize and delete. Your cover story is a classified communication failure requiring your expertise off base. I've arranged transportation with appropriate documentation. And Harrington will be occupied with a surprise readiness inspection from JSOC for the next 12 hours. By the time he realizes you're gone, you should have completed the extraction." Vega took the tablet, quickly scanning the mission parameters. "Pike, on standby, but maintaining cover. This is a solo operation, Vega. We cannot risk exposing the full extent of Black Section's presence on this base." She nodded once, committing the details to memory before wiping the tablet. "Communications protocols? Standard emergency channels only, full blackout otherwise." "And Vega," Ward's expression hardened, "this asset may have information critical to identifying the leak that compromised the previous operation. Extraction is priority 1, but intelligence gathering is a close second." "Understood, Commander." 6 hours later, Vega moved silently through the darkness of a nondescript warehouse in a coastal industrial area 50 miles north of the base. She had changed from her Navy uniform into civilian clothes that allowed freedom of movement while blending into the urban environment. Her hair was pulled back under a cap, her face partially obscured by a high collar. The warehouse appeared abandoned, but thermal imaging revealed a single heat signature in a small office at the rear. Approaching cautiously, she detected no obvious surveillance or security measures. Either the asset was truly alone, or this was an elaborate trap. She entered through a service door, moving from shadow to shadow, with the practiced ease of someone trained in covert operations. The office door was closed but unlocked. Inside, a middle-aged man with thinning hair sat at a desk, his face illuminated by the glow of a laptop screen. He looked up as she entered, relief washing over his features. "You're not who I expected," he said quietly. "Your usual handler is unavailable," Vega replied, using the coded phrase to identify herself. "The weather in Stockholm is particularly cold this time of year." He nodded, accepting the verification. "I have 6 minutes before the next security sweep. The files are encrypted." He handed her a small drive. "The key is our usual arrangement." Vega took the drive, securing it in a hidden pocket. "Status of pursuit? Close. They identified me 3 days ago. I've been moving continuously since. Transportation ready? South entrance, black sedan, keys under the driver's side floor mat, clean registration, no electronic tracking." She assessed him quickly, exhaustion evident in his posture, but no visible injuries. "Can you travel unassisted?" "Yes, but we need to move now." As they prepared to leave, Vega's instincts flared, a subtle change in the ambient sound of the warehouse. Almost imperceptible, but enough to trigger her training. She raised a hand, signaling the asset to freeze. Through the small office window, she caught a glimpse of movement near the main entrance. Tactical team, moving with professional precision. At least 4 operators, possibly more outside her field of vision. Alternative exit? She whispered. The asset pointed to a ceiling panel. Maintenance access leads to the roof. Vega moved quickly, helping the asset up through the panel before following. They crawled through a narrow space above the false ceiling, dust and insulation making each movement a careful balance between speed and silence. Below, she heard the warehouse door open, followed by the disciplined movements of a tactical team executing a search pattern. They reached a roof access hatch just as voices below indicated the team had discovered the empty office. Vega pushed open the hatch and helped the asset onto the flat roof. The night air was cool, the industrial area mostly dark except for security lighting that created pools of illumination between large shadows. 3 buildings over, the asset whispered, pointing to an adjacent roof. Fire escape on the far side leads to where I left the car. They moved quickly across the roof, staying low to avoid being silhouetted against the night sky. As they reached the edge, Vega assessed the gap to the next building. Jumpable, but not easily for someone without her training. I'll go first, she told the asset, then help you across. She backed up several steps, then ran forward and leaped across the gap, landing with practiced silence on the adjacent roof. She turned to guide the asset when a flash of movement caught her eye. A figure emerging onto the roof behind them, weapon raised. Down! She shouted to the asset, who instantly dropped flat as a shot cracked through the night air. Vega drew her own weapon and fired twice in rapid succession. The figure on the other roof jerked backward, disappearing from view. But the exchange had alerted the rest of the pursuit team. Shouts echoed from below as more personnel converged on their position. Change of plan, she told the asset. We separate. You take the route we discussed. I'll create a diversion. The drive, he reminded her. It contains evidence of foreign intelligence operations targeting senior U.S. military personnel, including at your base. Names? Coded, but yes, and communication protocols. Dead drops. The entire network. That confirmed her suspicions. Harrington's unusual interest in classified operations suddenly made more sense if he was part of a foreign intelligence operation. The drive might contain the evidence needed to expose the entire network. Go, she ordered the asset. Contact Point Charlie in 24 hours if you make it clear. He nodded once, then carefully made his way to the fire escape on the far side of the roof, while Vega moved in the opposite direction, making herself a visible target to draw pursuit away from the asset. As predicted, multiple figures converged on her position as she ducked behind a rooftop air conditioning unit. Shots ricocheted off metal as she assessed her options. 4 pursuers visible, possibly more. No easy exit route without exposing herself to fire. Tactical disadvantage, but with 1 card still to play. She activated a small device on her belt, sending an encrypted emergency signal that would alert the ward to her situation. For the next 15 minutes, she engaged in a dangerous game of cat and mouse across the rooftops and through the abandoned industrial buildings. Her training allowed her to stay ahead of the pursuit, but escape routes were dwindling. As she ducked into a narrow alleyway, calculating her next move, her secure phone vibrated once. Message received, extraction inbound. 3 blocks away, she spotted what she needed. A motorcycle parked behind a late-night convenience store, keys foolishly left in the ignition. She reached it just as headlights appeared at the end of the alley. No time for subtlety now. She started the bike and accelerated away, the pursuit vehicles falling behind as she navigated through narrow passages they couldn't follow. By dawn, she had returned to base through a seldom-used access point, the drive secure in her possession. Her civilian clothes were exchanged for her uniform, all evidence of the night's activities erased. To anyone checking her whereabouts, she had been in the communications center all night, working on the classified system failure, as her cover story stated. She found Commander Ward in his office, securing the room before handing him the drive. Asset? He asked. Unknown. We separated during extraction. Rendezvous set for Contact Point Charlie. Ward connected the drive to a specialized device that would allow secure viewing without risking electronic fingerprints. Pursuit? Professional, tactical team with military precision, not local law enforcement or criminal elements. The files began decrypting, revealing a complex network of communications, payments, and operations targeting U.S. military installations along the Pacific coast. Ward scrolled through the information, his expression darkening as specific names and operations appeared. This goes deeper than we thought, he said finally. Multiple penetrations across command structures, and confirmation of what we suspected about Harrington. Vega studied the screen, focusing on a particular communication log. Not Harrington directly, Mercer, his administrative assistant. Classic handler-asset relationship. With Harrington as the unwitting conduit, Ward concluded. All his communications, operational plans, personnel decisions flowing through Mercer. Who selectively feeds information to his controllers, Vega finished. The extraction operation was compromised because Harrington included Mercer in the planning sessions. Ward was about to respond when a priority alert flashed on his secure terminal. Harrington is looking for you. The readiness inspection ended earlier than anticipated. He knows you've left the base in violation of his restriction order. Vega's expression remained calm despite the complication. The evidence on this drive is enough to expose Mercer, possibly the entire network. How do we proceed? Carefully. If Mercer realizes we've identified him, he'll burn everything and disappear. We need to catch him in the act, with evidence that will stand up to scrutiny. And Harrington becomes a secondary problem. His vendetta against you is professional, not treasonous. We can manage that after Mercer is contained. Vega nodded once. I'll return to my assigned post. Let Harrington find me and deliver whatever reprimand he has planned. Keeping Mercer's suspicions minimal takes priority. As she predicted, it took less than an hour for Colonel Harrington to locate her in the administrative office where she had been reassigned. His face was flushed with anger as he strode through the door, Mercer trailing behind him with a carefully neutral expression that didn't quite mask the calculation in his eyes. Lieutenant Commander Vega. Harrington's voice was tight with controlled fury. You were expressly ordered to remain on base under administrative restriction, yet I find reports that you were absent for over 12 hours without authorization. Vega stood at attention. Sir, I was responding to a classified communications failure as directed by Commander Ward. The nature of the failure required my physical presence at a secure facility off base. Without my authorization, Harrington snapped, I am the commanding officer of this installation. No personnel under restriction leave without my direct approval. The matter was time-sensitive and classified above your current clearance level, sir, Vega responded, knowing the statement would only inflame his anger further, but needing to maintain her cover. Harrington's jaw tightened. This is the final straw, Lieutenant Commander. Your disregard for the chain of command and proper protocols has become a pattern I will no longer tolerate. He turned to Mercer. Prepare the paperwork for an official reprimand and disciplinary review. I want all SEAL teams and support personnel assembled at 0800 tomorrow on the main parade ground. Yes, sir, Mercer replied, a hint of satisfaction visible only to someone specifically watching for it. After they left, Vega accessed her secure tablet, sending an encrypted message to Ward. Mercer confirmed, Harrington escalating, full assembly, year 0800 tomorrow, potential exposure window. The response came seconds later. Understood. Continue as planned, Ryan informed. The following morning dawned clear and cold, a brisk wind coming off the Pacific as hundreds of Navy personnel once again assembled on the parade ground. The mood was tense, word having spread about Vega's violation of Harrington's direct order. SEAL teams stood in perfect formation, faces impassive but eyes alert, sensing that something significant was about to unfold. Colonel Harrington arrived precisely at 0800, his uniform immaculate, his bearing rigid with controlled anger. Mercer followed 2 steps behind, carrying a folder that presumably contained the official reprimand. Commander Ward stood with the senior staff, his expression unreadable. From the periphery, Captain Winters observed the proceedings with careful attention. Master Chief Blackwood, standing at the head of his section, watched as Vega was once again called forward to stand before the assembled personnel. Unlike the previous formation, her face showed subtle signs of fatigue from the night's operation, but her posture remained perfect as she faced Harrington. Lieutenant Commander Vega, Harrington began, his voice carrying across the silent formation. You stand before this assembly for the second time in as many days. Your continued disregard for proper authority and chain of command demonstrates a pattern of behavior incompatible with service in the United States Navy, particularly within the special operations community. He paced before her, building his case for the assembled personnel. Despite explicit orders restricting you to base, you absented yourself for over 12 hours without my authorization. When questioned, you claimed classification levels beyond my clearance, a transparent attempt to avoid accountability for your actions. Vega remained at attention, eyes forward, as Harrington continued. This pattern of insubordination, combined with your interference in the recent extraction operation, leads me to one conclusion. Your presence in this command is disruptive and dangerous to operational integrity. He stopped directly in front of her, voice hardening. I have prepared formal charges recommending your immediate removal from special operations duty and disciplinary action for insubordination and violation of direct orders. The accusation hung in the air as Harrington stared at her, waiting for any reaction that would further justify his actions. Pike shifted slightly in formation, a movement so subtle only those who knew him well would notice his tension. "Do you have anything to say in your defense, Lieutenant Commander?" Harrington demanded. Vega met his gaze directly. "Permission to respond, sir." "Go ahead," he replied with a dismissive wave of his hand. "Show me what you can do." The challenge was clear in his voice, his contempt evident. What happened next took exactly 3 seconds and caught everyone except Ward by surprise. Vega moved with lightning precision, a sharp pivot followed by a sweep that took Harrington's legs from under him. As he fell, she twisted, controlling his descent while simultaneously disarming him of his sidearm with such fluid expertise that many in the formation barely registered what they were seeing until the colonel was face down on the ground, his arm locked in a submission hold, his weapon secured in Vega's free hand. The silence that followed was absolute. Harrington's face registered shock and pain, but more significantly, dawning fear as he realized what had just happened. No rage in Vega's execution, no hesitation or excess force, just precise, controlled neutralization of a threat, performed with a level of skill that went far beyond standard SEAL training. Commander Ward stepped forward from the staff, his voice carrying across the stunned formation. "Colonel, you've just assaulted an operator from Black Section." From within the ranks, Master Chief Blackwood whispered to those near him, understanding finally clicking into place. The ones they send when they can't send anyone else. Harrington's eyes widened as the reality sank in. Black Section was not merely a rumor, but an actual classified special operations unit operating at levels far above his security clearance. And he had just publicly struck one of their operators. If you have ever watched someone powerful suddenly realize they have underestimated the wrong person, share your experience in the comments. Sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who never need to announce their capabilities. Subscribe if you want to see the full consequences of Harrington's mistake unfold in the final part. The formation stood frozen as Lieutenant Commander Alessandra Vega held Colonel Harrington immobilized on the ground. The weapon she had taken from him was already secured, her movements so fluid and precise that many of the SEALs watching realized they had never seen true operational efficiency until this moment. Harrington's face contorted with a mixture of pain, shock, and dawning comprehension as Commander Ward's words registered. "Black Section," Harrington repeated, his voice strained against the pressure of the hold. From the edge of the parade ground, a figure approached with unhurried confidence. Director Callista Rhine wore no uniform, her civilian attire and the simple badge clipped to her blazer, the only indicators of her authority. Yet her presence commanded immediate attention as she walked through the formation, personnel instinctively stepping aside to clear a path. "Colonel Harrington," Ryan's voice carried clearly across the suddenly silent parade ground. "You're relieved of command, effective immediately." Vega released Harrington from the hold, but remained poised, ready to respond if necessary. The colonel pushed, himself up from the ground, his face flushed with humiliation and confusion as he confronted the newcomer. "By whose authority?" he demanded, attempting to reassert control over a situation rapidly spiraling beyond his grasp. "Joint Special Operations Command," Ryan replied calmly, displaying credentials that made Harrington's eyes widen further. "Your security clearance has been suspended pending investigation into operational security breaches originating from your command." Harrington's gaze darted to Mercer, who had gone pale at the periphery of the confrontation. The administrative assistant began backing away slowly, his hand moving toward the inside of his jacket. The movement caught Pike's attention immediately. "Gun!" Pike shouted, breaking formation as Mercer drew a concealed weapon. What followed demonstrated why Black Section operators were considered elite even among special forces. Pike moved with extraordinary speed, closing the distance to Mercer, while Vega simultaneously pushed Harrington to the ground and drew the weapon she had confiscated from him. 3 SEAL team members nearest to Mercer converged as well, but it was Pike who reached him first, disarming him with a precision strike that left Mercer gasping on his knees, the weapon safely in Pike's possession. "Lieutenant Commander Zachariah Pike," Ryan announced for the benefit of the stunned formation. "Also, Black Section." The revelation sent a ripple through the assembled personnel. 2 Black Section operators had been working among them, their true capabilities and assignment hidden until this moment. Master Chief Blackwood stepped forward, taking charge of Mercer as Pike kept him covered. "Secure him," Ryan ordered. "Full counterintelligence protocols." As Mercer was taken into custody, Harrington remained on the ground where Vega had pushed him, the full implications of the situation finally registering. His vendetta against what he perceived as preferential treatment for female integration into special operations had blinded him to the actual operation unfolding on his base. "I don't understand," he said, looking between Vega and Ryan. "What is Black Section? Why was I not informed?" "Because, Colonel," Ryan explained with cold precision, "Black Section exists specifically to operate in spaces where traditional command structures cannot. Their operational security depends on absolute compartmentalization of information." She gestured for him to stand, which he did with as much dignity as he could muster. "For the past 14 months, we have been tracking a foreign intelligence operation targeting senior military personnel along the Pacific coast. Your appointment to command this base coincided with an acceleration of that operation." "You suspect me?" Harrington's indignation flared. "I have served with distinction for 22 years. "We suspected your administrative chain," Vega clarified, her professional demeanor restored now that the immediate threat had been neutralized. "Specifically Mercer, who was placed as your assistant to access operational information flowing through your office." Pike joined them, handing Mercer's weapon to Ryan. "We confirmed last night that Mercer has been selectively feeding information to foreign intelligence handlers, including the details of the extraction operation that was compromised." Harrington's face drained of color as understanding dawned. "The hostage extraction, the ambush, was the direct result of information Mercer accessed through your office?" Vega confirmed. "Your insistence on keeping him involved in all operational planning created the security vulnerability we were assigned to identify." The colonel looked physically ill as he processed this information. "My men could have been killed." "They would have been," Pike stated flatly, "if Lieutenant Commander Vega hadn't intervened with the southeastern approach intelligence that wasn't in the briefing materials Mercer had access to." Around them, the formation had relaxed from rigid attention, the SEALs and support personnel watching the exchange with growing comprehension. What had appeared to be a gender integration conflict was revealed as something far more significant. A foreign intelligence operation had been neutralized right before their eyes. "Assemble your command staff in the secure briefing room," Ryan instructed Harrington. "Captain Winters will escort you. Full operational briefing in 30 minutes. As Harrington was led away, his authority effectively stripped, Ryan turned to address the formation. "What you have witnessed today is classified. Lieutenant Commander Vega and Lieutenant Commander Pike have been operating under deep cover to identify a security breach within this command. That mission is now complete." She paused, allowing her gaze to sweep across the assembled personnel. "Black Section exists to conduct operations that cannot be acknowledged within conventional channels. Their presence on this base was known only to Commander Ward, and, as of today, to all of you." The implications settled across the formation. They had been part of a counterintelligence operation without knowing it, their daily interactions with Vega and Pike contributing to a cover that had ultimately exposed a foreign agent in their midst. "Return to your duties," Ryan concluded. "Operational security protocols remain in effect." As the formation dispersed, Blackwood approached Vega, Pike, and Ryan. His weathered face reflected a new understanding as he addressed Vega directly. "The Hindu Kush sand," he said quietly. "That operation 3 years ago, when the hostages were recovered from the mountain compound, that was you." Vega neither confirmed nor denied, her expression remaining professional, but something in her eyes acknowledged the connection Blackwood had made. "How many of you are there?" he asked, looking between Vega and Pike. That information remains classified, Master Chief, Ryan interjected smoothly. But I will say that Black Section selects its operators based on capability and psychological profile, not gender or any other demographic consideration. Blackwood nodded slowly, processing this. The Female SEAL Integration Program. It was cover. A useful coincidence, Ryan clarified. Lieutenant Commander Vega earned her trident through the same training as every other SEAL. The political attention around female integration simply provided additional camouflage for her actual assignment. The Master Chief straightened, coming to attention. It has been an honor to serve alongside your operators, Director, even unknowingly. The honor was mutual, Master Chief, Vega responded, offering a rare, genuine acknowledgement that bridged the gap between her cover identity and her true role. 3 hours later, Vega sat in a secure debriefing room with Pike, Ward, and Ryan. Tactical teams had already swept the base for additional security compromises, while intelligence analysts began the painstaking process of determining exactly what information Mercer had passed to his handlers during his time as Harrington's assistant. Preliminary interrogation confirms our assessment, Ryan reported, reviewing data on her secure tablet. Mercer was recruited 2 years ago while on leave in Southeast Asia. Classic approach, financial inducement, followed by blackmail to ensure compliance. And Harrington? Ward asked, completely unaware. His selection as base commander was likely influenced by Mercer's handlers, who identified him as an ideal unwitting conduit due to his insistence on keeping all operational details flowing through his office. Pike leaned forward. The extraction operation? Mercer had access to the primary insertion point and timeline, Vega confirmed. He transmitted that information 36 hours before execution, giving the opposition time to prepare the ambush, which you countered with the Southeastern approach intelligence, Ryan noted with approval. Clean improvisation, Lieutenant Commander. Vega accepted the acknowledgement with a slight nod. The asset we extracted last night has provided additional information on the network. At least 3 other military installations along the Pacific coast have been compromised through similar methods. JSOC is coordinating simultaneous operations to secure those locations, Ryan confirmed. Your work here has potentially saved dozens of lives and prevented significant intelligence losses. Ward studied a report on his own tablet. And Harrington will be reassigned, Ryan stated definitively. His security clearance will be restricted during the investigation, but initial assessment indicates he was negligent rather than complicit. His prejudice against female operators in special operations created a blind spot that Mercer exploited effectively. And our cover? Pike asked, gesturing between himself and Vega. Compromised at this location, Ryan acknowledged. But the broader Black Section program remains secure. We'll transition you both to new assignments once the situation here is fully contained. The meeting concluded with detailed assignments for the transition period. As the others departed, Ryan held Vega back with a subtle gesture. That was precise work on the parade ground, Ryan commented once they were alone. 3 seconds from initiation to complete control with minimal force. Standard protocol, Vega replied simply. Perhaps, Ryan conceded, but your restraint was notable. Many operators in your position, after Harrington's public attempts to discredit you, might have employed more demonstrative methods. Vega considered this assessment. The mission parameters required identification of the security breach, not retribution against an unwitting participant. Ryan studied her with experienced eyes that had evaluated countless operatives throughout her career. And that, Lieutenant Commander, is why you were selected for Black Section. The ability to maintain mission focus regardless of personal considerations is rare, even among special operators. She handed Vega a sealed envelope. Your next assignment, when you're ready. Take 48 hours first. Standard decompression protocols. Vega accepted the envelope without opening it. What about the Female SEAL Integration Initiative? My removal could be interpreted as confirmation of Harrington's position. Already addressed, Ryan assured her. Captain Winters has been authorized to acknowledge that 3 other women have successfully completed SEAL training and are currently serving in classified assignments. Your legacy here will help rather than hinder future integration efforts. The following morning, Vega found herself back at the training area where Brielle Mackey had first approached her weeks earlier. The The sky was clear, the rising sun casting long shadows across the concrete as a group of candidates, including 3 women, moved through a punishing training regimen under the watchful eye of senior instructors. "Your influence is already evident," Captain Winters remarked, joining Vega as she observed the training. "Applications from female candidates have increased 30% since word of your confrontation with Harrington spread through the ranks." "They don't know the full context," Vega noted. "They know enough," Winters countered. "They know a female SEAL stood her ground, demonstrated extraordinary capability, and exposed a security breach that threatened the entire command. The details of Black Section remain classified, but the example you set is not." Vega watched as one of the female candidates completed a complex obstacle faster than her male counterparts, her technique reflecting the same efficiency that Black Section training emphasized. "They're going to face resistance." "Of course," Winters acknowledged. "Change always does, but they'll have something you didn't." "What's that?" "The knowledge that it's possible, that the path exists, because someone already walked it." Winters handed her a tablet displaying her new security credentials. "My clearance has been upgraded. I'll be coordinating between conventional units and Black Section operations going forward." "Good choice," Vega approved. "Your analytical skills will be valuable in that role." "I've reviewed the full report on the Harrington situation," Winters continued. "Your assessment from the beginning was accurate. His bias created the perfect blind spot for Mercer to exploit. He was so focused on what he saw as preferential treatment for female integration that he never considered the actual operation unfolding right in front of him." "A common weakness," Vega observed. "People see what they expect to see." "Which is why Black Section is so effective," Winters concluded. "You operate in the spaces between expectations." Later that day, Vega found Master Chief Blackwood waiting near the armory as she completed her equipment check. His expression was different now, the suspicion replaced by a new understanding and respect. "Lieutenant Commander," he greeted her formally. "Master Chief, I've been assigned as liaison between standard SEAL teams and Black Section operations going forward," he informed her. "Director Ryan thought my experience and discretion would be useful in that capacity." Vega nodded her approval. She was right. Blackwood hesitated, then reached into his pocket and produced a small item. A modified SEAL Trident insignia with a subtle alteration that would be recognizable only to those specifically looking for it. "This was authorized by Director Ryan. For 7 years you've carried our burdens without recognition. It's time you had something to show for it." She accepted it with a rare smile that, for once, reached her eyes. "Recognition was never the point, Master Chief." "Maybe not," he acknowledged, "but respect was, and you've earned that 10 times over." As she secured the modified Trident, Pike approached, his gear already prepared for deployment. "Wheels up in 30, he informed her. "Ryan says this one doesn't exist even in the black books." Blackwood raised an eyebrow at this, but knew better than to ask for details. Instead, he simply nodded his respect as they prepared to depart. As Vega and Pike walked toward the waiting aircraft, Lieutenant Brielle Mackey approached with unexpected confidence, carrying a classified folder. There was something different about her bearing now, a precision to her movements that Vega recognized immediately. "Director Ryan said you'd need these before Wheels Up," Mackey stated, handing over the folder. "Geological surveys of the target location." Vega studied Mackey with new understanding, noticing for the first time a small scar similar to her own partially visible beneath the lieutenant's collar. "How long have you been Section?" she asked quietly. Mackey smiled slightly, a professional. Acknowledgement between equals. "Longer than you, Commander. We've been watching Harrington for months." She handed Vega a second, smaller envelope. "And this is from those you extracted 3 days ago. The family wanted to say thank you." Inside was a child's drawing of a faceless soldier with a simple message. "Thank you for bringing my mom home." Vega tucked it into her pocket, nodded to Mackey, and boarded the aircraft with Pike. As the plane began taxiing toward the runway, she caught a glimpse of Blackwood and Mackey watching from the tarmac. "How many of you are there?" Blackwood asked, not really expecting an answer. "That's classified, Master Chief," Mackey replied with the ghost of a smile. "But more than anyone knows, and never enough." The aircraft lifted into the clear sky, banking over the Pacific Ocean as it headed toward a mission that would never appear in any official record. Below, Naval Base Coronado continued its daily operations, most personnel unaware of the shadow operations that had been conducted in their midst, or the quiet professionals who moved through classified spaces to ensure their security. In the secure command center, now under new leadership, Commander Ward stood with Director Ryan, watching the aircraft disappear from radar as it engaged stealth protocols. Was exposing Black Section here worth the operational cost? Ward asked, the question that had concerned him since the confrontation on the parade ground. Ryan considered this carefully. The exposure was calculated, limited to this installation, controlled in its scope. The benefit outweighed the risk. And the benefit was? Beyond neutralizing Mercer's network, Ryan's expression softened slightly, a rare concession to the human element of their work. Sometimes, Master Chief Blackwood, the operators who serve in the deepest shadows need to know that their sacrifices matter, that someone sees them, even if history never will. She gestured to a memorial wall where unnamed stars represented those who had fallen in operations too classified to acknowledge. They give everything, including their identities. Occasionally, they deserve to hear thank you. 6 months later, a new group of SEAL candidates stood at attention as they prepared for their final qualification exercise. Among them were 4 women, their faces showing the same determination and exhaustion as their male counterparts after months of the most grueling training the military offered. Senior Chief Instructor Daniels paced before them, his weathered face revealing nothing of his thoughts as he delivered his final briefing. Beyond this point, there is no special treatment, no consideration for anything except operational excellence, he stated firmly. Some of you will fail. Those who succeed will have earned every molecule of oxygen you breathe as a Navy SEAL. His gaze lingered momentarily on the female candidates before continuing. There are paths beyond the standard teams for those who demonstrate exceptional capability, classified units that operate beyond conventional parameters. He paused, allowing the implication to register. But first, you have to prove you belong here at all. As the candidates moved toward their final challenge, one of the female candidates caught a glimpse of a figure watching from a distance. A woman in civilian clothes, her posture unmistakably military despite the casual attire. For a brief moment, their eyes met across the training ground, and the candidate straightened imperceptibly, drawing strength from the unspoken acknowledgement that the path ahead had been walked before. The figure nodded once, then turned and walked away, disappearing among the base buildings as quietly as she had appeared. No one else seemed to notice her presence or her departure. But then again, that was the point. In the years that followed, the story of what happened that day on the parade ground became something like a legend among special operations personnel. Details blurred and shifted with each retelling, but the central truth remained. Never underestimate an operator based on appearance or assumptions. And never, ever strike a Navy SEAL, especially one whose file is marked classified. The most powerful people are rarely those who need to announce their capabilities. They are the ones who serve quietly, whose actions speak with precision when words cannot. If you know someone who carries their strength with dignity rather than display, someone whose true capabilities only emerge when absolutely necessary, share their story. Our world is protected by more silent guardians than we ever acknowledge. Subscribe if you believe in honoring those who serve without recognition, whose greatest victories are the ones we never hear about.